Okay guys, welcome, and today I'm really excited because I get to show you how to wood burn leather on a variety of animals, from rhinos to reptiles, elephants, all of those type of animals that have that leathery skin to them. I'm going to show you the basics of, okay, how do you create that texture with wood burning? This is personally one of my favorite techniques to do because I actually grew up in Africa where I got to see wildlife and animals up close, specifically elephants. They're by far my favorite animal to wood burn. I have wood burned multiple elephants. So the technique of wood burning leather, I've really used a lot in many of my wood burnings. And so I'm going to show you some of these techniques, and join me and let's get at it. So here are all the supplies that we're going to need for this project. I have my piece of wood and the elephant I want to wood burn, my wood burner, a little piece of sandpaper here for the tips, and the tips that I'm going to use today for the wood burning. Okay, so before we even dive into this project, I want to reiterate that no matter what you're burning, whatever texture, whatever a piece that you're trying to burn, always go for what you see, not what you know is there. So even as I explain these different techniques, how to wood burn leather and the different things you do, you will have to adjust it and adapt it to whatever piece you're doing to get the correct look. For example, in this piece, I'm doing an elephant that's kind of close up, right, of the trunk and his face. And I'm also wood burning it on a very small piece of wood. But if I was doing the same piece on a bigger piece of wood, I would have to adjust slightly some of these techniques. If I was doing a picture of an elephant that was farther in the distance, I'd also have to adjust. And there's a few reasons for this. So you can't see as much detail if the piece is farther away or if the piece is smaller, right? You can't include as much detail. Okay, so saying that, well, let's just get into this. The 3 tips that I use for wood burning leather look is these 3 tips. I have a flat shader. I also have my spoon shader, which is a little bit smaller and got more of a rounded feel to it here. And the last is my skew, and this kind of cuts deeper into the wood. So when it comes to wood burning this elephant, I see 3 main elements. First, we have these different folds in the skin that are very distinct. We also have the just leathery look all across his body. And then the leathery look of his ears, which is slightly different texture than his face and his trunk. Those are the 3 main leather looks in this elephant that we're going to have to burn. So when it comes to the folds in the skin, you can use the skew to burn those lines into the wood, or the edge of the shader, and it also has that little bit of a skew that cuts into the wood. And so you can use either one to create the texture of those folds in the skin. Now, I will say that whenever you're using the skew on this, make sure that you start off in a lower heat. You do not want to create really dark, deep black lines for some of these folds in the skin, because you can see the fold of the skin right there, but that is definitely not as deep and as dark as like one of these folds. And again, you will have to just adjust your skew on how dark those lines you're creating for those folds of the skin, depending on your project. I am going to first show you how to do it with the shader here. So let's grab this, and I'm going to adjust my heat to maybe a 5 here or so on my wood burner. That may be different on yours. And on my project here, I'm going to kind of burn some of those folds in the skin here. So I'm just using the edge of my shader and kind of creating some of these folds in the skin. And these are actually kind of light. I probably will have to do them a little darker when it comes to creating the rest of the trunk here, but I do like to start off a little bit lighter and then go darker. Let me then go and show you how to do that same technique, but I'm going to use the skew. And for the skew, I'm going to have to use a little bit hotter heat. You can see some of these folds in the skin. Those are definitely darker and more distinct. So that's what I'm using the skew for here. And the skew works better when you pull it towards yourself than pushing away. Also, just as a little side comment here, it is nice when you have lines in any project. So if you're burning buildings, if you're burning anything that has these type of lines kind of draw your eye to the shape of something. So you can see how his temple, it just kind of folds in, and then you have that shadow. So if you kind of curve your lines in to help the eye see that kind of curve, and then it curves down to the bottom of his chin, then you kind of curve it just ever so slightly. Some of those lines and some of those folds of the skin, it kind of helps the eye see that shape. Okay, there's definitely more folds in the skin that I can add here, but I want to go on to the next step. That is wood burning the leather on his face. This technique involves more of a tapping motion. I often use the flat shader for this, but the spoon shader will work very well, especially if you need that tighter kind of shading involved. But if you don't have a spoon shader, I have done a lot of my burnings with just the flat of a shader. Okay, so I'm going to turn my wood burner on. I'm starting about 5 on my wood burner, maybe 4.5, and I can always adjust it hotter as I need to go. This technique, it kind of is a tapping motion, and you definitely want to adjust the angle of your shader to kind of find that right spot where you're starting to create those kind of like a stippling type of motion. But it's not a direct up and down motion, because those will create very distinct little dots, and you want the dots kind of to blend together. You don't want any one dot to start standing out. As I'm hitting the wood, I'm kind of going to the left a little bit, tap a little bit of C motion as I burn, because I don't want the stippling to be too distinct, but I still want that leathery look. Sometimes as I'm tapping, I also tilt my shader kind of side to side, creating more texture and blending those different stippling dots that you've kind of created. If you've seen any of my other videos that I've talked about this, but you always want to burn from a low to hotter heat, building those layers. Never go really hot first to get those darker layers. Even if you've got shadows, start with a lower heat and then go several layers, adjusting the heat up slightly each time. When I get to the fold of the skin, I will want that gradual shadow, so I will tap right next to the fold in the skin, and as I pull away from the fold in the skin, I kind of lighten up my burn. That shadow kind of gets darker and darker to get to the fold. I am far from being done here. I wanted to just show you some progress. Those folds in the skin kind of disappear because I didn't make them dark enough. So I'll have to come back and work on that. But at least down here at the end of his trunk, you can see a good amount of progress I made. I had made it a little bit darker, the folds in the skin. I made it a little darker so you can see kind of like the shadow from his tusk kind of falling around. And it needs a little bit more work, but you can kind of start seeing that leathery look. If you've ever looked at leather, you've seen a really close-up shot of leather, you know that it has like tons of folds in the skin. That is what leather is. That's why it has that rough feel to it. But based on this picture, what I can see, I can only see those very distinct folds in the skin, and I can see some of that little bit of roughness. But I can't see all of it and all of those folds. So I just want to get that texture and not try to wood burn every little fold, just to get it to look like there's a lot of folds. The same thing will go for wood burning all of the leather. That's the second part of wood burning leather is you've got the folds in the skin, you have the main part of the body, and on an elephant, you also have this leather look that is a lot smoother. It doesn't have folds and that roughness comparatively to the rest of the body. I'll turn the heat up, and I don't want the heat too cold here, so I'll put it up about 5.5. We'll start with that. I can use the shader to create a smooth burn without it being too smooth. Kind of more of a circular motion or a back and forth motion. So starting on a lower heat here, I'm going to burn a couple layers. If you guys have a struggle creating smoother burns, then I will recommend that you guys grab a piece of scrap wood and just practice some of these techniques. Some of these techniques that I'm showing you, you kind of have to have a grasp of how to build layers, create smoother burns, and just know your wood burner. You have to know some of these basic things before jumping in and trying to create leather, because it is a little bit more complicated. So you really want to have some of these other basics down. Okay, so something I want to quickly add here is that shadows and really dark shadows specifically will hide any detail that an animal or anything has. So for example, yes, you have that leathery look on the ear, but when you have something that's completely in the dark, you can't see the detail. Here I've done enough to show you what I mean when I'm saying that you want to create that leathery look but for the ears. It's not perfectly smooth. You can see there's a little bit of roughness. It's not perfect, and that's what I'm trying to go for. So here is the finished piece. So you can see all those 3 techniques I used. You can see those folds in the skin, tapping motion that built out all that leather on his face, and then that slightly different leather look for his ears. And all 3 of those together kind of create that leathery look for the elephant. And this can be applied to a variety of other animals. Okay, so that is some of the basics of wood burning leather look into your pieces. And there's a lot more that you can learn about wood burning leather and creating that look and that technique. And maybe I'll actually create a wood burning class where I can dive into more of these type of textures in specific detail and do a practice project together. But I hope this at least gives you kind of a broad perspective, something to start from, where you could start creating these textures in wood burning and create your own pieces. If you enjoyed watching today's video, give it a like, and thanks guys for watching, and we will see you guys next time.